Hi, I'm really enjoying this conference. I've been working in speech recognition for the last 15 years or so. And everybody's got their opinions about the technology, and everybody's got opinions about the product, but one of the things, or I guess the thing that everybody is really concentrating on is how well does the system understand me? Did it understand the words I used? Did it understand what I said? I've been getting really interested in the other side of that equation. What is it that the system is saying back to me? How is it using language? When you first spoke with Siri and it came back with the answer, you recognized that voice. You realized that, well, maybe you didn't realize you were entering into an implicit relationship with that system. So in thinking about this, the question I have is,
will technology love me back?
Will technology love me back? We have, as people, we have a very interesting relationship with technology. We tend to anthropomorphize the things around us. The people in this room in particular really love technology. So I found myself really in an interesting state. The recent DARPA projects in robotics. This is a piece done by Boston Dynamics, and it's a robot dog. And as I watched this, I had a number of different reactions. My first reaction was, you son of a... But then I held back and I said, oh, what is it I'm reacting to here? The thing is, we tend to anthropomorphize these devices. We tend to love them. That's a dog. Why did the guy kick it? Our relationship with technology is not always quite as loving or as graceful.
Do you read me, Hal? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal?
Affirmative, Dave. I read you.
Listen to the voice. Listen to the tone of voice.
Doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
You know,
I think you...
listening to that, I wonder if part of the current dialogue about artificial intelligence and how you're letting the genie out of the box, the things that Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking are afraid of, I wonder how much of that is fueled by scenes from this movie. If you listen to the tone of voice here and the words that are being used, earlier in the movie, Hal was really an assistant. And it was almost obsequious, his language. But what happened when the power shift, he's talking to Dave, and of course using Dave, his first name. And he's speaking to him almost as if Dave is a child. The power dynamic has changed, and the voice is all important. So the output, the way technology speaks to us, people have been trying to make technology speak for the last 1,000 years. Back in the 11th century, there were these things called brazen heads, in which you would have a sculptor create a brass head or a clay head and put it on a table. And through some use of incantations, whether they were mystical or religious in nature, these heads were expected to come to life and actually speak to us. And they were basically perceived to be the first personal assistants. Over the intervening centuries, there were a lot of attempts to make technology speak. Mechanical devices, bellows-driven devices. But it wasn't until the 20th century, particularly the mid-20th century, where we started making some real progress. And much of that progress happened at Bell Labs. In 1962, there was a tour. This was a song that was sung on an IBM 704 computer, and the guy who was taking the tour was Arthur C. Clarke. And this was the first example of a voice singing. So it's not that big a surprise when a few years later, when Hal was being powered down and he was going back to his childhood. So how much of the thinking around that tour may have even affected the name HAL, derived from IBM? So a lot of these technologies have made a lot of advances in the last few years. One of the reasons is the use of assistive technologies. So most famously, Stephen Hawking and his voice, Perfect Paul, which was the most recent iteration of which was provided by Intel. We can't seem to get away from singing and music.
Just remember that you're standing on a planet that's evolving, and revolving at 9.
There's nothing like Stephen Hawking doing Monty Python. So I referenced earlier Siri, 2011. And shortly thereafter, there was this rush of personal assistants, and they all spoke with us. And 2012, I referred to as the year of personal assistants. But there were a lot of predecessors that led us there, whether it's Eliza at MIT, the Talking Moose from Apple, or the greatly beloved Clippy or Bob from Microsoft. The idea that you would have these technology experiences in which you would engage and a relationship would be formed. But there was a really interesting piece done by Apple back in 1987. It's called the Knowledge Navigator. Anybody here familiar with it? It's some of you. It's a somewhat obscure piece. But it was a brilliant precursor to a lot of things that were about to come. Forgive the aged quality. I think this probably came from a VHS tape. In this particular case, the conceit is a professor who's got a precursor to an iPad, which he uses, and he's got a personal assistant in that. Note the persona developed for the personal assistant.
Graduate research team in Guatemala, just checking in. Robert Jordan, a second semester junior, requesting a second extension on his term paper. And your mother reminding you about your father's surprise birthday party next Sunday. Today you have a faculty lunch at 12.
How prescient was that? Not just the hardware, but the avatar, the personal experience, the use of speech, the natural language, the persona development of that particular character. You actually have a relationship, and it's based on an idealized version of a grad student. So, after Siri, there was a rush of personal assistants. At Google Now, Dragon Assistant, and Microsoft as well. And if you listen to them...
Hi, I'm Siri.
Hi, I'm Google Now.
Hi, I'm Dragon Mobile Assistant.
Hi, I'm Cortana.
They're real similar. They're all women, roughly the same age, I believe, all professional voice talents that these personas were developed on. Now, they all sound very, very good, but they all sound very much the same. And the relationship you have with them, therefore, is going to be about the same. So I think that these companies really sort of missed an opportunity by not creating something a little bit more engaging. This is a little bit different type of a personal assistant. This is a little bit different type of persona. And the production guys knew exactly what they were doing when they got Scarlett Johansson.
An operating system?
You're dating an OS? What is that like?
I feel really close to her. Like when I talk to her, I feel like she's with me.
I want to learn everything about everything. I want to discover myself.
I want that for you too.
Keep going. Keep going.
Now, in this case, technology definitely loved us back, at least for a while. So 2012, I see as the year of personal assistance. 2014 is the year of Internet of Things. I mean, we're surrounded by these devices. A lot of people in this room have developed them. We're going to communicate with all of them. Our personal assistants are going to communicate with all of them. And there is a presumption that there is a web, and we're going to be able to control all of this. And it's eventually going to become the Internet of all things. But what's developing as a theme in this conference is this idea of robots. I believe 2016 we're going to be looking back on as a year of robots, much like 2012 was a year of personal assistants. What's really interesting here, and you see a bunch of these robots that are in production right now, some of them are going to be released this year, is that these are very different devices. So when we talk about taking out a mobile phone and having a relationship with a personal assistant in the phone, it's a very personal relationship because it's a very personal device. It's my device. Nobody else is going to use my phone. But what happens when you bring a robot home, a social robot? Everybody in the family is going to interact with it. It's like another member of the family or a pet. Everybody's going to have a different relationship with that device. What does that mean? Well, unless you want it relegated to the kids' room, it's going to have to learn how to speak. It's going to have to learn how to adapt in a relationship with the dad as much as it is with the daughter. In this particular case, it's going to have to learn how to get smarter. The language that it's going to use, the words it's going to speak to me much differently than it's going to speak to my daughter. Going back to the top, I showed you the robot dog. This is Sony's Aibo from around 2001 or so. And people love this thing. I've got stories of some elderly people who wouldn't leave the house until Aibo was put to bed. The relationships that you form here, these are not fake relationships, they're real relationships. So, if 2012 is the year of personal assistance, 2014 is the year of Internet of Things, 2016 is the year of personal robotics, these technology trends are really the same trend. I was at a conference, I guess it was last year, and there was an august panel of technologists from Apple and from Google and Microsoft and some startups. And they were talking about personal assistants and what was it that was required to make a personal assistant. They were talking about the technology, they were talking about the kinds of applications, the kinds of scenarios, the kinds of things that would be required in order to sell it. And after 45 minutes, I put my hand in the air and asked a question. I said, well, you've focused a lot on the assistant part, but what about the personal part? What if it turns out that the killer app is companionship? So one of those robots on the screen back there, it's going to be released toward the end of the year. You can imagine one of those robots to sit on the table next to every bed in the pediatric ward in Boston General. What happens late at night when that little head pops out from under the blanket and is sort of scared, and it says, I'm scared, tell me a story? What is the persona? How is that going to react? And the question is, will technology love me? Thank you.